Madrak Ironhide, Thornwood Chieftain. Madrak Ironhide has proven himself a truly great leader of his people. Leadership in time of peace is easy, but Madrak has overcome many recent trials and tribulations. His life has been darkened by ill omens and setbacks that have crushed the spirits of lesser chiefs. Madrak fights on and retains the hope of leading his people to a better life. Despite being born an albino sorcerer, as a youth, Madrak earned renown by outfighting his peers atop the Kor dueling platform. The adventurous young Trollkin also pushed his limits exploring the ominous Thornwood Forest, until one day a band of Tharn ambushed him. Hopelessly outnumbered, he drew a weapon and screamed a battle cry of his Kriel. In his moment of doom, the air was split by a flash of lightning and a crackle of thunder. Madrak's unlikely savior were humans led by a young man wearing the Cygnus. Back at his Kriel, Madrak feasted the youth and evoked the tradition of Kolgat ceremony, which made them blood brothers for life. Decades later, this youth became King Leto, the ruler of Signar, even as Madrak himself became the chief of his tribe. Eventually, human warfare spread across the Thornwood and other remote places inhabited by the Kriels. Madrak could not turn away the refugees who came to him for aid, and soon found himself responsible for a staggering number of Kriels. When an army of the Crixian dead brazenly swept through the region, killing everything in their path, he was forced to embrace a desperate solution. Madrak undertook a pilgrimage to a special Kor, serving as the resting place for an ancient weapon, the axe Rathrock, or the World Ender, once wielded by Horfar Grimmer of the Mulgar. Legends proclaim that this weapon was so mighty that wielding it would bring the dire curse upon the world to herald the end of days and unleash the Devourer Worm. Knowing his people faced annihilation by the unrelenting horrors of the Nightmare Empire, Ironhide brought the weapon forth to wield against the invading darkness. Even with Rathrock's power and Madrak slowly losing ground to the inexhaustible enemy, desperate, the chief sought audience with the Signarin blood brother and negotiated what he thought would be the salvation of his people. Although the Kriels gained a temporary home in unused lands, their migration eventually put them in the path of the invading Scorn. When Madrak returned to King Leto to demand a safer land promised, Leto claimed to be beholden to his own nobles and offered only excuses. Returning empty-handed to his people, Madrak barely survived the vicious assassination attempt by his longtime allies, the Black-clad Druids, aided by a traitor among his own trusted kin. Only the intervention of Harlock Doomshaper saved his life. After the attack, Madrak swore to join Doomshaper in carving out a safe place for the Kriels, even if it unleashed a river of blood and invited the doom of the World Ender. Yeah, so this guy's the guy who pulled in King Leto as a blood brother, so that's always fun. And we will be reading about the alternative history for King Leto as the blood brother of the Trollkin, but that's going to be later on, not this particular video. Also, that axe Rathrock, or the World Ender, is going to be coming into some lore that we've already actually talked about in the Orboros videos, particularly with a certain warcaster of theirs who also is insane. But you can go back and check that out on your own. But let's go over his Mark 3 to Mark 4 changes, see if there is any. Probably not, but we can find out. Alrighty, and of course, let's start with his stat line. Has it changed at all on Mark 4? And guess what? No, it is not. He is still a speed 6, so he's still pretty speedy. He's still a mat 7, which makes him a melee combatant, of course. His rat is still a 6, so, well, that's what we're stuck with. Defense still a 14, armor still a 17. Auric is still a 5. He's not a super good warlock, but, or super good, magic user. But, most albinos usually do have some magic, of course, but that's where he's stuck. He's still a troll, so he still is tough. His control range is still a 12. He still has the Scroll of Grindar's Perseverance, which allows him to, once per game, avoid damage being dealt to him. It's kind of like one of the scrolls from Doom Reaver. But yeah, so once per game, if he's directly hit by attack, he suffers no damage from that attack. And then he still has Tactician, which makes all of friendly models within 10 inches of him ignore other models when determining line of sight, or ignore other friendly models when determining line of sight, and then they can move through them, which for a Trollkin army where all of them are medium based or larger, most of them, that allows them to just move through each other as if they're not there and shoot through each other as if they're not there, making them even more dangerous on the battlefield. So watch out for that. And then his weapon got a little bit better. So his Throne Rathrok is still a rat 6, so he's not like crazy huge rat. Still a range 8 and still a POW 15 and still a magic weapon. However, a Blood Boon is better, I would say, because once per activation, immediately after resolving an attack which destroyed an enemy model, this can cast a spell without spending focus. So we no longer have the cost of 3 or less added to Blood Boon. So that's actually going to be fantastic for other warcasters. I'm not sure if he is going to benefit from this a whole lot, because I don't think he has any super expensive spells. But if anything, anybody else who had Blood Boon that has like a 4 or 5, cost spell, probably not 5. I don't think I've ever seen a 5 cost spell. But for anybody who has those, it'd be really nice. And then his Throne Rathrok also has Ricochet. So after he hits somebody with one weapon, he can hit another model within 4 inches, ignoring line of sight and the weapon's range, and then of course it just comes right back to him. Yeah, but you can only do that once, so you can't ping off 6 people or something like that. It's only one extra shot. And then of course his melee weapon Rathrok also has Blood Boon, also Mat 7, Power 15 magic attack. His feat really hasn't changed either. It's still D3 plus 3, or remove D3 plus 3 damage points from friendly faction models currently in his control range. And then while in his control range, friendly faction models cannot be charged or be hit with a slam power attack. So that's nice, and that's pretty much the same. And then his spell list, he has a very short spell list. Of course, he is only a 5 focus caster, so you don't need to give him a whole lot of stuff. He still has even ground, so while in the spellcaster control range, friendly models gain +2 defense and cannot be knocked down. So that's great for a model, or great for an army that all has tough, like the Trollkin do. Gives them super tough, like I like to call it. Well, I like to call it super tough, although some people call tough on a 4, 5, or 6 super tough. But I feel like if you can't be knocked down, that means that you can keep using tough over and over again. At least that's how we do it in my shop, so we'll keep going with that rule. But then his other spells haven't really changed all that much, except for his Guided Hand, which gave a friendly faction model / unit an additional die on their next melee attack roll, has been changed out with Fortune, which is target friendly faction model / unit can reroll a missed attack roll, which is kind of, tomato on that one. Because re-rolling a missed attack roll is just as important as adding an additional die on it. But I don't know. I think it's just something to make it a little easier on the rolling, I suppose. And then he still has Jackhammer. So that's great. It is a cost 1, range 6 spell. Target model in the spellcaster's control group can immediately make 1 basic attack, which is kind of nice when paired with his Blood Boon ability, because then you can just make your other guys take another swing at somebody. So, but that's also fantastic. But all in all, it doesn't look like Madrak has changed all that much outside of that one spell being shifted and Blood Boon removing the cost of 3 or less on that particular ability. So, but yeah, still the same guy.